up to chapter 4 of You Are Your Best Thing, and this chapter is by Kiese, Makeba, Laymon, and it's titled My Head is a Part of My Body and Other Notes on Grace. Kiese is an author out of southern Mississippi, and he's a writer and a professor, and we find in this story that he hints around at the word crazy a whole lot in this chapter. Craziness of the medical system, craziness that goes on in our head, craziness that black men face, and he is a black man that is scared of going to the doctor. He's scared that a white man is going to kill him, and as he dives into this story, he unpacks parts of crazy that he's dealt with in his life. He says that he's been to college and he got kicked out of college because he didn't check a book out of the library, which I guess they considered a form of theft, and that caused him to be displaced from the school. And when he tried to fight to not be treated like a nigga, as he says, that's when they called him crazy in his head. But no other time in his life had a medical doctor told him that he needed therapy or that he needed to check on his mental health or anything like that. And he was raised by parents that did not show love or affection, eventually got separated, and the only time that he could ever think that they were loving together was to come up with his name. They worked in unison in order to make sure that they named him what they named him, but no other time in his life did he see them function or act out of love. He lived in Mississippi. I think his mother lived in the east up north, and then his father lived in the Congo. So they were all over the place. They were never together. And he eventually has this medical scare where he finds out that he's just having panic attacks. But in going to the doctor, he feels a need to code switch. He feels a need to dress up and look professional and talk differently in order for them to take his life seriously, because he's scared that these white people are going to kill him because of his appearance and because he's black and because he's an overweight black man. He thinks that they just don't have or care or concern for his life. Eventually, he finds out that he has a bad hip and he's not crazy. That medically there is something wrong. But throughout this whole story, he's really just struggling with what the mental health looks like in order to deal with every aspect of his life. His mental had caused him to just tap away from life. He didn't want to meet friends. He didn't want to accept phone calls. He said most of the time he ate in his bed. He didn't even want to see the day of light. And I would imagine that this is what it's like for most of our black men. Not all, but a lot. And, when we read stories like this, it just lets us into what other people are going through. Again, that inclusion, so we can understand when somebody's struggling. We can understand when they're having a hard time. He said that even when he went to the doctor to check on his mental health, he still felt like he started talking crazy. You know what I mean? And he started applying mental health concepts to situations that didn't apply, which just made him feel more crazy. And I know sometimes in our black minds, in our minds, period, we can just kind of go through this spiral and this loop that sends us down this rabbit hole that makes us feel like nothing makes sense. To add this in there, this is why I practice. This is why I do yoga. This is why I teach it. And this is why I want you all to find some sort of outlet or some sort of practice that will allow you to exercise your mental health and to exercise that mind, body, soul connection. He writes that as being a writer and being an author and being, into that, his artistic nature kind of helps control some of that. And that is where we find out that our gifts and talents can carry us a long way. So I hope this one resonated with somebody. And until we get to chapter 5, y'all keep inhaling life, exhaling death, and I will see you on the flip side.